One of the questions that I got on yesterday's live stream is, "Hey, Tyler, did you use this planner at all to plan your Kickstarter?" I know it's definitely meta. The goal is to have this planner be useful, not just for comic book launches, but for a lot of different crowdfunding projects. And one of the main reasons I wanted to make this planner is because every time I launch a Kickstarter, I end up printing out these journal pages that I use to sort of plan my daily actions, keep myself accountable, as well as to have a record of what the heck I did during the launch to get the results that I have. And what this also does is it sort of makes me feel like I am in control of my campaign. Sometimes when you're in the middle of a launch, it can feel like there's so much to do. What do I do? And then you start to get analysis paralysis. And so one of the practices that I've found that really helps campaign after campaign is taking the time at the beginning of each day of the launch to plan your day with a acknowledgement of here are the actual metrics, here's what the status is today, and then what can I do to move my campaign forward. And so I just want to show you what I filled out today in the actual daily launch planner. Obviously I've mocked this up so it'll be easier to present, but I have it right here. I, again, don't have the physical planner yet, but here is an example of a printout that I did, but I've translated it for all of you. So I just want to walk through this. So how these daily launch pages work is you're going to start out, and this is day 2 of the campaign. It's a Wednesday. Here's the actual date. And then the next thing that I do is I just plug in, hey, what are my metrics as of this morning when I'm planning it out? So as of this morning, we were a little under $7,000, 198% funded, 178 backers, 23 days to go. And because I was funded, I plugged in a stretch goal. Usually for a lot of our campaigns, we've been seeing, you might get about a third of what you ended up raising throughout the entire campaign on day 1, maybe a little bit more, 35%. And so for a stretch goal, I just sort of plucked in $15,000 and also added these are the followers, the campaign followers, like official campaign followers. So 178 backers, almost twice that in terms of followers. So there's a lot of people out there sort of watching and hopefully will jump in. And here's my dollars to go. Now, usually if I'm in a campaign and I'm not yet funded, the dollars to go will be based on what my project goal is. But since we're already past the project goal, I base my dollars to go based on 15K. So just a couple different ways to look at it. The next thing that on my daily planner pages is today I'm especially grateful for. And I always have to add this in because gratitude is the anxiety killer. It is the feeling lack killer. It is the feeling helpless killer. If you can just remember to put yourself in a state of gratitude, you will be so much better off for it. And so, what I'm grateful for today is just so many familiar backers, so many familiar names, people that have been listening to the podcast since like the very first episodes, as well as people that I've met over the years. And then also a lot of familiar names. So it's also a chance for like hearing from people that I've never actually interacted with, but they're like, hey, yeah, I've been listening to your podcast for a while. It's been helping me with my launches. And so like launching on Kickstarter is giving me that opportunity and just seeing people share it. So definitely grateful for that. Then prioritizing action. Again, there's so much that you could possibly do during a Kickstarter launch, but what's the single most important thing that you get done today? Identifying that at the beginning of each day of your launch is going to help you. So today, a big promotional thing that I'm hoping to do to have fun and to make this feel like an event, which was yesterday's tip of the day, is to get this daily creator live stream off to a great start. So this is my absolute focus. But then also, what else is priority, high priority stuff? We've got some ads rolling for this campaign, so I want to check on those and make any tweaks if needed. I need to send a backer kit launch blast out today, and then I need to update the Kickstarter comic book creator Kickstarter outreach script that my assistant sends on my behalf to invite more folks to come join for these live streams. So those are my sort of high performance priority things. And by just doing that, there's obviously other things that I'm going to do to promote. But if I can check off those 3 high priority things, then I know that I've done the most important things to move the needle on my campaign. Another thing that this daily launch journal does is it also focuses on some of the metrics that matter during a campaign. Average pledge level being one of the key performance indicators of a campaign. And right now, the average pledge level for this campaign is about $38.99. Usually, my rule of thumb for what I'm expecting to see the average pledge level be is anywhere between 1.5 to 2 times what the physical pledge is for the physical item, which is usually the most popular pledge, like just the baseline physical pledge. Right now, that's for our early backer for the planner. So this is a little bit close, but a little bit on the low side. So that gives me an indicator that maybe there's some things I can do to up the average pledge level. I also have some Google Analytics data that I pump in here. I have noticed that the Google Analytics data seems to be lagging a little bit in terms of not updating as much as it used to. But as you can see, launch day, very impressive 27% page conversion in terms of people that hit the page actually back. And that every person that hit the page, according to Google anyway, is worth about $14.60. Where that is valuable is it just says, hey, every time you reach out to somebody and ask them to check out the page directly, or every time you run Facebook ads and know what it costs to get a click to your Kickstarter page, this little metric is a good one to know because everybody that hits your campaign page is worth on average about 14 bucks, which is pretty good. Am running some ads. We have about $237 in ads that have been spent so far that have driven 15 pledges, 452 bucks. Cost per pledge cost me about $15 to get a pledge using ads, and the average pledge level is 38, and the return on ad spend is 1.9. Now that's a little bit lower than what I like to see. I'm usually looking for 2 to 2.5 to 3x, but I also know that this is a lower price item. And so it might not be one where doing much better than two is going to be possible. But this is something that also it takes a little while, at least 48 hours usually for the algorithms to optimize. So I'll be paying attention to that. And then the second half of the daily launch pages, I've got a little temperature check. Feeling pretty calm, feeling pretty good on this campaign. It gives me some space to just plot out like when I'm going to do stuff and what I'm going to do. And then also a brilliant idea zone. So as I have ideas, I want to jot them down, things that might not necessarily be a to-do list or a high priority thing, but just something I want to make sure I remember. I'll put that in there. And then the last thing that I've included in these daily launch pages is a episode of the Comics Launch podcast that's appropriate for this particular time in your launch. So, this particular episode points to a recent episode on using featured and secret rewards. I'm actually not using any secret rewards yet because we're in the early backer phase, but I may end up rolling some of those out there. So anyway, this is just an opportunity for me to show you how my daily launch pages work a little bit. And hopefully that is, you can see some value in just like having a little launch system for each day to help you plan, help you get organized and go forward from there.